Why women cringe when men don't keep their word. This is something that a lot of men really struggle to understand. Why a woman gets so worked up, she feels so anxious, she feels so bad when a man breaks his word. And I'm not even talking about breaking his word with something huge. I don't mean like he cheats on his woman or divorces his woman or marries the woman, says that he wants to have kids and then changes his mind. I'm talking about small stuff, right? I'm saying when he says he's going to be there for 5 o'clock and he ends up coming at 5:10 instead. We're talking about small things that cause a emotional reaction in a woman, right? A certain level of anxiety in her. This is actually normal, and this is actually healthy. Men struggle to understand it because men are not women. But for a woman, it's a big deal. Not necessarily because he broke his word about that thing, but more about because what that means about his word in other situations. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So hello, my name is Zach Rohde. I'm here to lead you into creating the relationship of your dreams with your feminine energy and what I call feminine communication to inspire a man into cherishing you. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you do that below, hit the notification bell, and be sure to like this video because I'm going to make sure it's a good one for you. And if you would like help learning how to shift out of your unhealthy control patterns so that you can inspire a man, then go below this video, open up the description. You're going to see the links to all of my offers, and a great place to start is my free webinar at zachrohdecoaching.com. All right, so breaking your word. What we're going to do, I'm in the middle of reading my book kind of step by step on these videos. This is Inspires Devotion. You can find it at amazon.com by searching my name. And what I'm doing is I am getting near the end now of my list of examples, things that men can do that cause her anxiety. And then we talk about why that happens. So this one is a man who breaks his word because it communicates that even if he makes promises that he will provide, he may end up not providing. Right, so the reason that a woman feels anxious with a man, so much of it, not all of it, but so much of it, it has to do with the fear that she is going to lose the provision that the man is giving her. So when a man is in the masculine role, he is the one that is giving to his woman, and the woman is receiving. He's in the caretaking role. She is in the role of being taken care of. So everything that the man is doing in the relationship, his leadership, his advice, his feedback, his correction, his boundaries, his compliments, his love, his affection, his planning, his decisions that he makes, all of it is a form of provision. And that's what a woman needs to feel good, right? The more that a man is providing for his woman, obviously that's communicating how much he cares about her. But then also, just from an instinctual survival point of view, if a woman is going to submit to a man, in general, but also in the bedroom, she's putting herself in a very vulnerable position by potentially having children with him. And so she is going to need that provider, right? Because if he decides, I don't really want to provide, or I'm not really good at it, then she's potentially putting herself at risk and putting her child at risk, her future child at risk. Because it's like now she's barely able to take care of herself when she's pregnant or taking care of her child, and the man is choosing not to provide. So when a man says, I'm going to be here at 5 o'clock, and then turns out that he comes at 5:10, what that is communicating to the woman, to her instinct, is, okay, I may not be able to trust this man because he is not true to his word. He says one thing, but something else ends up happening. Right, he said 5 o'clock, it ended up being 5:10. And this is just one example, right? There's tons of, little things that a man can say, little promises that end up not happening. Like, we'll go out somewhere this weekend, and then something comes up, and he can't do it anymore. And it might have been through no fault of his own, right? And it's like his mother died, or something smaller, like the friends came into town, and he only sees his friends once every 5 years or something. So these things can happen where whatever he initially said, he ends up going back on his word. And logically, a woman can look at some of these things and be like, yeah, okay, I understand why he had to change his mind about this. But that doesn't necessarily translate to her instinct. because to her instinct, it's still saying, how can you trust this man? How can you trust this man if he says this one thing and now he's going back on it? Because if I can't trust him with this, what else might he promise? What else might he say will happen? What else will he say that he will be giving or doing where it won't actually come true? Right? If he says, I want to take care of you forever, so that's his word, how does she know that it's going to be true? If he ended up breaking a whole bunch of the things that he was going to say over and over again prior to that. So these little things end up really mattering. Now, some of this can also be wounding, right? Like we talk about instinct, where a woman's feminine instinct is going to respond negatively, of course, to a man breaking his word. And in a way, I should also explain this, in a way that's totally different than if a woman were to break her word about something. First of all, a woman shouldn't, there would be situations where a woman would be breaking her word. I was going to say it'll be much rarer, because if the man is in his masculine and he's the one that's leading the relationship, it's going to be his decision, so there's going to be way more opportunity for him to go back on his word than the woman. But there's things that the woman where it could happen with the woman too, right? If a man makes plans like, hey, we're going to meet up on Saturday, and the woman says, I'm free, and then she backs out. Well, okay, she's breaking her word too. But it's going to have a very different response that a man will have when a woman breaks her word. He might be irritated, right? Like if it's something that is within the woman's control, he will probably be irritated, because to the man, he's going to, depending on what it is, he could receive this as disrespect, right? If the woman says that she's going to do something, if she was following his lead and then she chooses not to for whatever reason, that could be disrespectful. And so the man can receive that as disrespect, and the masculine instinct responds to perceived disrespect typically with a feeling of irritation. But he's not going to feel fear. I'm not saying a man could never feel fear, right? Like if a woman's loyalty is in question, certainly he could feel some level of anxiety. But for the most part, he's not going to feel fear when a woman breaks her word about something, because she's not the one that is giving provision in the relationship. She's the one that's receiving provision. So her provision is not at risk by breaking her word. And a man doesn't care about that. It's the other way around where it matters. So the woman is going to feel some level of anxiety, and that's totally normal, and that's totally healthy. It's her feminine instinct that's telling her that something is wrong. And what many women will do is they will feel that anxiety, but they won't say anything about it. Or maybe they kind of say something playful and make it not a big deal in some kind of way. And then something else happens, and something else happens, and something else happens. And the woman tries to give the man the benefit of the doubt and, not be a burden, so not make a big deal about it, not rock the boat. And when she does that, it's going to be more likely that the man is going to break his word in the future. Why is that? It's because a woman is demonstrating that she lacks self-worth if she's not willing to communicate what's coming up for her, right? So if she feels some level of anxiety and she just downplays this, or even worse, says nothing at all when a man breaks his word, she's communicating, I lack self-worth. I am willing to just tolerate and enable this kind of behavior, this kind of treatment, without me even speaking up. And so the more that a woman communicates that she lacks self-worth, the less respect the man will have for her, the less inspiration he will have to take care of her, which isn't okay, right? Like just looking solely at the man's issue, a man should always be treating a woman well regardless of how she shows up. But this is the real world, and that's typically, I can say the optimal thing that a man and woman should be doing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, right? So a man is going to typically take a woman for granted, see her as less than, the more that she treats herself as less than, right? You're treating yourself as inferior when you are not communicating what's coming up for you when a man is not treating you well. You're basically communicating, my needs and feelings don't matter as much as yours do. Especially if you're hiding those feelings because you don't want him to feel bad or get angry at you in some kind of way. So it's really important that you communicate what's coming up for you, even if it's not a big deal. And this is where women really go wrong, because, when you really like a man, women will often have a habit of seeing everything as not a big deal. The less that you like a man, everything becomes more of a big deal because you don't care about him as much, right? So you're not justifying and rationalizing his behavior in the same way. But if you really like him, you're probably going to justify away his behavior to some extent and then not end up saying anything. And that's where you start contributing to the relationship or to the dynamic going wrong. What you actually have to do is rock the boat. And that's especially hard when it's such a small issue, because a lot of the time it is like objectively small. It's like it wasn't a big deal that he broke his word about this thing. And so you're going to be thinking, I shouldn't say anything. It's so silly. And he's going to think that I'm crazy and just way too sensitive. And you've probably been called too sensitive before. He might judge you as too sensitive, but it doesn't matter, because you need to do this for you first. You must decide that your feelings are so important that you're going to share them no matter how he responds. And if you do it cleanly, if you do it respectfully, if you do it vulnerably, the way that I teach, using feminine communication, he probably won't respond in a negative way, because you're coming from the energy of opening yourself up. You're asking him for help. You're sharing your anxiety, just saying, like, I feel really anxious. And when you ask a man for help and you cleanly, vulnerably share your anxiety, a man would really have to just kind of be a dick to call you too sensitive or to not want to help you in that moment, because he can feel your anxiety, he can feel your pain, and he can also feel your responsibility, in the sense that you're not trying to put anything on him. You're not blaming him for how you feel. It's just you're really struggling and you don't know what to do. By the way, don't do this by text. This is one of the things I tell my academy students, is like, that should be a last resort. Or if the relationship is really good and solid, fine, you can communicate this stuff by text. But especially early on in a dynamic, the more that you try sharing this stuff by text, you're opening yourself up to the man misunderstanding and to basically see the worst in you, because he can't actually feel your heart. He's not even aware of what your true intentions are, because it's just text. He's missing all that sub-communication from your energy and from your body language. And so he's probably going to think that you are judging or that you are blaming, and he's not going to respond well. So try not to do this by text. Share what's coming up for you. And it's not to get him to fix the behavior or to do better in some kind of way. What you're doing, the reason you're bringing this up, is because you need help with that anxiety. What you really need, if we're going to really boil it down, what you need is some reassurance. I mean, maybe some accountability on his part, depending on why he broke his word. Actually, most of the time you should be taking accountability regardless of whether it's his fault or not. And that actually is a form of reassurance, right? When a man can own up to what he's done in some kind of way, even though he still did it, in a woman's system, it's like you're typically able to relax a lot more, because he knows that it's a problem, he's admitting to it, and if he's demonstrating that he doesn't want to do it, if he wants to take action to avoid that, then that builds a lot of trust, right? That's communicating, this is a man that's capable of being accountable, capable of being responsible, capable of taking care of me. The provision that I'm afraid of losing is not at risk. So it could just be him giving you reassurance. It could be just giving you a hug. It could just be letting you know that you really matter to him, that you still matter to him, right? If the fear that it was bringing up in you, it was making you question how much he liked you, how much he valued you, right? So it's actually bringing up that insecurity. And you just need a little bit of help with that. Whatever it is, when you communicate that, you're communicating self-worth. You're communicating that your needs matter, that your feelings matter, which is going to typically cause a man to feel more attraction for you and more inspiration to take care of you, assuming, of course, that you are doing this cleanly in the way that I teach. And if you would like help learning how to communicate this, because I can say, just make I feel statements and all of this, that's the beginning, but there's so much more to feminine communication, right? Like learning how to share the problems, learning how to communicate in any situation. There's a lot of stuff that will come up. What to do when a man doesn't respond perfectly. That's another really big one. So if you would like help learning how to communicate in this way to stay in your feminine energy, to be able to effortlessly inspire a man into taking care of you, then go below this video, open up the description. You're going to see the links to all of my offers. Go to my academy offer at thedreamrelationship.com. You're going to book a call with me there. And on that call, we're going to talk all about what's going on in your love life, what your control patterns are, why you're stuck, what your unmet needs are. We'll talk about what you need to do to shift as far as what I teach. We'll see if I can actually help you, if working with us makes sense. And if it does, then you can choose to work with us if that's where you're at. And if that is you, then fantastic. I will see you on that call, and we're going to have a fantastic time. That's it for this one.